Hello fellow lovers of the liminal and the weird, and welcome to another video by Liminal Spaces. Today I am bringing you another look at my library, but today I thought, because it was spooky season, that we would go over the first couple of letters in my horror collection. So today I'm going to be covering authors whose last name end with the letter A and the letter B in my horror collection. All right, let's get started. I start with a writer named Robert Aickman. Painted Devils, Strange Stories by Robert Aickman. And the front cover of this is by Edward Gorey, I believe. Yeah, jacket designed by Edward Gorey, which is why I grabbed it. Plus, I looked up Robert Aickman recently, and apparently he's quite an enjoyable writer, so I'm looking forward to reading some of this. Also by Robert Aickman, I also got Cold Hand in Mine, Strange Stories. Of course, this jacket was also designed by Edward Gorey. So those two you can look forward to hearing about in the future. Next up is, of course, Flowers in the Attic by V.C. Andrews. And I actually have the first 4 of this series. If There Be Thorns, Petals on the Wind, and Seeds of Yesterday. Scary picture on the back of that one. I read Flowers in the Attic when I was a teenager, and I enjoyed it. It was weird, creepy. I haven't finished the series yet, and these are all book clubs. And I know that after she died, Andrew Niederman took over as V.C. Andrews. And it's kind of, I think, gothic literature is where I'd put this. Gothic horror. But yeah, I like the first one, and I found these all at a thrift store, so I figured I should get them all. And I'll eventually be giving these a read as well. Oh, I've got one more. My Sweet Audrina by V.C. Andrews. A lot of V.C. Andrews to look at. I wonder if this is all the same cover artist. Illustration Gillian Hillis? No, illustration Gillian Hills, it looks like. I wonder if that's all the same. This one does not say the illustrator on the same place the other ones did. Yeah, I bet you it's the same artist. That looks pretty similar to me, so yeah, probably the same artist. A lot of V.C. Andrews. All right, next we have, of course, The Amityville Horror by Jay Anson. This was a book that I read voraciously when I was a teenager. I very much was into the supernatural and horror and ghosts, and I wanted to and did believe, whoa, there's somebody left a card in here. Hi, handsome, I'm your new doctor. Well, that's enough excitement for today. Now take it easy and get well soon. Okay. I love finding weird stuff in books. I got this off of eBay, which means they must have left it in there. This is a first edition of the Amityville Horror, but not a first printing. I think it's a 13th printing of the Amityville Horror. Loved the movie when I was a kid. Scared the heck out of me. Read the book quite a few times, actually, when I was younger. Really enjoyed that. Another novel by Jay Anson, 666. I honestly did not know that he wrote any more past the Amityville Horror. So I just found this at a sale somewhere and was like, wow, more Jay Anson. I got to give it a go. So you can expect me to talk about that someday on the channel. Okay. And I'm including this, even though this author's name does not end in A, but just to keep the collection together. This is the Amityville Horror 2. And this is by John G. Jones. A book club edition that I was happy to find as well. Have not read this yet. And that is all of the horror that I have in my collection with the last name A. Moving on to B, of course, we start with Clive Barker. And this is Galilee. I've never read this one. This is a first edition. First edition, second printing, it looks like. I never read this one. I read a lot of his earlier stuff. In the Flesh. It's funny, Stephen King has given quotes on all of these. This is a book club edition. And of course, this is part of, what do they call them? The Books of Blood. And I read a bunch of these when I was younger. Lots of Clive Barker short stories. This is one of the Books of Blood. Next up is The Thief of Always by Clive Barker. Another book club edition, I'm sure. Great wraparound art on this one. And it even goes further. I'm going to take this whole thing off. Because this wraparound, there's nothing on the dust jacket that tells you what the story's about or anything like it. It's just an awesome, massive painting that is super cool. See if we can figure out who did this super cool painting. Illustrated by Clive Barker himself. I forgot about that. That Clive Barker did his own art. Very cool. So I wonder if this must be his painting on the front as well. Very, very cool. All I ever read of Clive Barker was his short stories. So I'm looking forward to trying out some of his novels in the future. The Inhuman Condition. Another set of short stories. Also one of the Books of Blood, I believe. Yes, and this one I have read. This is a book club edition. The Damnation Game. This is a book club edition. Jacket design, copyright. Oh, so this is a sculpture. It was sculpted by Marshall Arisman. And then it was photographed by Herman Estevez. Here we get into a classic from the horror genre, and that is Jaws by Peter Benchley. This is a first edition. Don't know if it's a... Yeah, that is a straight up first edition of Jaws. $6.95 when it came out. Okay, I just looked this up, and this is a little bit more confusing of what's a first edition and what's not a first edition. So this seems like a first edition... maybe second print. Some people are calling it a variant print. But the cool thing about this is my uncle gave it to me, so I really love it. It's a classic. I read it years ago when my uncle gave it to me, getting me into horror genre. So thank you to my uncle for that absolutely cool book. Here's a book called Sleep, a horror story by Lynn Beidersat. I have no idea if I'm saying her name right. I don't know who this is. Zudek is written on the front cover as the artist. For some odd reason, that looks like a young Nicolas Cage to me. And even the beast sitting on his chest looks like Nicolas Cage to me. I don't know. I've never heard of this, but it looks creepy, and I liked the description on the inlay, so I grabbed it. It is a first edition stated. If anybody knows anything about Sleep, let me know if it's worth a read or what. This is called The Wanting, and it's by Campbell Black. Don't know who Campbell Black is, but I liked this cover with the couple and the axe over the top. Looks super spooky. This is a book club edition, and whoever I got it from, whatever estate sale I got this from, whoever read it wrote good up here. So I guess I'll trust their reading. Here comes another big one, perhaps one of the biggest, and that is The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. Read this probably when I was like 15 or 16 years old. Was absolutely taken with it. It was incredible. This is a first edition. I did not find this one out in the wild. I had to buy this on eBay, but I bought it before the recent rush to collect horror started again, mainly because of Paperbacks from Hell. So I got it for a very good price. I think I paid like $20 for this, $25 for this. And I'm super, super happy to have it because it is a horror classic and one of my favorites. Also by William Peter Blatty, I have Legion. And this is such an interesting book because it was released So the Exorcist movie was made, and then somebody made The Exorcist 2. I don't remember who made that movie, but it had nothing to do with William Peter Blatty. And then William Peter Blatty wrote The Exorcist 2, which is called Legion. And later, they decided to make this book into a film, but since they had already made an Exorcist 2, they had to make the film Legion Exorcist 3. So then there was a paperback version of this that was called The Exorcist 2 Legion. And then they released the movie, and then they did a movie tie-in version of this that was called The Exorcist 3 Legion. So you can actually get The Exorcist in paperback, The Exorcist 2 in paperback, and The Exorcist 3 in paperback. And 2 and 3 will literally be the exact same story, Legion, which is the only sequel to The Exorcist that William Peter Blatty ever wrote. So, super cool. It looks like a first edition. $14.95 on the cover. So, this could be a first edition. Glad to have this one. Another William Peter Blatty, and this one I'd never heard of when I was a kid. I haven't read this one yet. My great-grandfather owned a gas station in the small town where my family's from, and my uncle owns it now, and he's just put shelves in there, and he collected books big time through the 70s and the 80s, and I can tell that I got this from there. He recently let me go through there and just grab a bunch of his old books, and this is one of the ones that I grabbed because I'd never even heard of it. It's the Ninth Configuration, William Peter Blatty. I know that this looks like it's had the black page ripped off. $7.95 price on the jacket there. Yeah, I don't know if I have the copyright page. So it could be a first edition, but it's so damaged it's not worth anything. But it's cool. It was my uncle's. He read it. I'm going to read it. I know that William Peter Blatty wrote humor before he wrote The Exorcist, so you can find books by him that are out there that are humor books. And I've never read any of his humor. He might be a great humor writer. I don't know. But I loved The Exorcist, so I'll give this one a read as well. Last but not least of my hardbacks in B, I have Robert Bloch. 14 terror-filled tales to keep you up at night. Cold chills. Scary. This is a first edition. $5.95 when it came out. I have not read this one, and I'm looking forward to giving it a read. I have read some Bloch, but not this one specifically. Now for paperbacks. I don't have any paperbacks that start with A. All of them are B authors. And of course we start with Clive Barker, Cabal. I've got a few Clive Barkers in paperback. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Again, I've read a lot of his short fiction. In fact, this is one of the books I had when I was a kid. Well, a teenager. And I think that art is Clive Barker himself, now that I remember that he would do that. This is volume 5 of Books of Blood. Here's volume 1 of Books of Blood. The Great and Secret Show. Really crazy cover there. Clive Barker's Weave World. This is a keyhole cover. I don't know if that art is Clive Barker again. Does not say. Yeah, so that's all my Clive Barker. I got a few of those. Next, I have The Ghosts by Antonio Barber. Just a cool 70s looking ghost story, 80s looking ghost story. Never heard of Antonio Barber, so it's something that I will check out. See what I think. I'll tell you about it once I read it. And then Twisted by Sue Hollister Barr. This says, The Sins of the Father Never Die. Might be some kind of religious horror. In 1992 this came out. Anybody read this? Let me know what you think. This is A Personal Demon. David Bischoff, Rich Brown, and Linda Richardson. A college professor conjures up a shapely demon to live within the laws of our world. I read this when I was way too young. I don't remember a lot about it except for that it was way too old for me. So, there you go. Oh, this is interesting. The novel A Personal Demon is based on a series of magazine stories written under the pseudonym Michael F. X. Milhouse and appearing in the following issues of Fantastic from 76 to 77. That's really cool. So I guess different writers would write on this story as it was published. I don't know who did that cover, but it's a crazy wild cover. Oh, I forgot. I even had this. I found this probably, it was before I found the channel, before I started the channel. It's a William Peter Blatty novel, Twinkle Twinkle Killer Kane. And it's just an old William Peter Blatty. A hilarious, chilling, and indescribable novel that reminds you of Catch-22 by a gifted virtuoso. So it's some of his humor, I think. Yeah, I'll have to give this a read one of these times. Super interesting. Oh, great cover, too. Very sci-fi cover. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of humor writing. Not that I think it's bad or has no place. It's just not as funny to me. I guess I don't go to books for humor. Because I do like comedy movies a lot. But I never really can make it all the way through a comedy book. I get tired and peter out. I like my novels to be deep and weird and strange and mind-bending. And yeah, doesn't tell me who did this, but it came out in 1966. Early William Peter Blatty. Very fun. The Late Great Creature by Brock Brower. A horror tale to shock the unshockable 70s. This weird bat with a human face and the naked lady standing on its forehead between the ears. Oh, and his arms are the wings. Great cover. Sometimes when I'm looking through estate sales and stuff, I just buy these for the covers. I have not read this one, but I absolutely will. Can America be shocked back to its senses by a self-appointed messiah of terror? Soon to be a major motion picture. I wonder whatever happened to that. Interesting. If you guys know anything about this, let me know. If you know who this cover artist is, let me know that as well. Very cool. The Butterfly Revolution by William Butler. Has a picture of a butterfly, and then there's this girl standing over what looks like the dead body of a young boy. A stunning novel of the young and evil that ranks with... a stunning novel of the young and evil that ranks with the Lord of the Flies. Oh, scary kids. This has been bitten. You're not going to be able to see that, but I can tell, like, some little kid mouth got on this and just... I don't think it was my daughter. Maybe the estate I got it from. Somebody had bitten it at one point, but yeah, somebody really sank their teeth into this one. Walkers by Gary Brandner. Gary Brandner's the guy that wrote The Howling, I think. Yeah. Walkers, I don't know if this is zombies. Joanna was one of the dead, but she was brought back to life. Yeah, this is zombies. I never read this one, but I did read The Howling. Because when I was a kid, I absolutely loved werewolves. I really did. I talked in an earlier video, I think Carmilla, that vampires never really called to me when I was a teenager until the 90s when I got a hold of Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles. I was a teenager when I got a hold of those, so I did like vampires when I was a teenager. But before vampires, there was werewolves, and I absolutely loved them. This is Gary Brandner's The Howling. Of course, they made a movie out of it. And this is a first printing of the paperback version of it. Very glad to have this. This is a rare one. And that's it. The first couple of letters from my horror collection. If you watched this to the end, thank you very much. If you liked it, please click like. And if you like this kind of content, please subscribe because we'll be making a lot more of it in the future. Thank you for watching.